see me and hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'll stop.
We can hear you, can't see you.
But I guess I hope that this gives you
Swipe
hope.
to the side, you should be able to see her. Sorry.
Right? As soon as I stop sharing, but I hope this gives you guys hope. Now go ahead, Dez.
Hey everyone, my name is Dez Peña, aka the Trillionaire Woman, and I'm going to be speaking to you guys today about how to prepare your credit profile on the personal side and then also on the business side. So I primarily started in the credit space back in 2021. I had always had a pretty good credit score between 700s and 750s. I started building credit at 18 years old because I just knew it was important. I didn't know why it was important. It was kind of just like getting A's on your report card. You know, you're just supposed to do it. So I made sure that I got my first credit card, which is a Discover card, and then I slowly built up from there. At a certain point, probably maybe a year or two into me having credit when I was in college, I was really, really nervous because I had gotten approved for a $10,000 credit card with Capital One, and I freaked out and told them I didn't want it because I had never seen $10,000 before. So now, today, I have funded myself and my partner up to $475,000, primarily all in just credit card stacking, and then I think we did like a $30,000 loan in that stack at that time. And I'm going to be teaching you guys how to prepare your personal credit profile. So if you don't have a notepad out to take notes, note takers are money makers, and always keep that in mind. So the first thing we want to make sure that our personal credit profile has is only one personal address and one name file. A lot of times there'll be misinformation, multiple different names, multiple addresses, and multiple employers, but you guys have to think about how the banks are thinking. So they don't want you to be have multiple aliases. They want to know who they're speaking to, and they want to know where they can find you if they need to send you mail or judgment or anything else if things don't go right. Now, the second thing that we need to make sure that we have on our credit profile is the employer. We don't always have to include it, but we can include it. But the one thing that should never be there is self-employed. The banks do not want to see that you are self-employed. Your employer is the name of your business, and that's how it should be placed there. You are going to get a higher chance of getting approved for funding. Now, before even getting any sort of funding, I want us to keep in mind what we want to use the funding for, because it doesn't matter if you can credit card stack your way to $100,000 plus if you don't have a plan to be able to utilize the money. Because if you don't have a plan, you'll fall into the plans of someone else, and that someone else may not have the best idea for you, and that can turn out really, really wrong. So if you guys are into real estate, or you guys know how to properly duplicate your funds, that's when I would say getting credit and credit card stacking is going to be beneficial to you. Other than that, just slowly building up towards, ideally I would say a personal credit profile of at least $100,000 would be perfect, because if you ever needed to leverage for an opportunity, you had it and you would be able to do it. You want to be prepared, and banks want to lend you money when you don't need the money. They want to lend it to you just because they know that you're doing good business, that you know that you're getting a steady income flowing in. Regarding the rest of our accounts, these are going to be called trade lines. Trade lines is the name of all of the accounts that are listed on your credit profile. They can be a mix of auto loans, mortgages, personal loans, or credit cards. So we're calling these trade lines. Now, there's a difference between primary trade lines and authorized users, which are not primary trade lines. Primary trade lines are when you are the primary owner of the account. An authorized user is when you have been added to someone else's account. And I'll let you know what the criteria are for adding yourself to an authorized user account shortly. The criteria for having an authorized user account is: one, you ideally want to make sure that this account has a history of ideally 3 years or more, but the longer the better. If you guys didn't know the secret to an 800 credit score, you need to have at least one primary account that is 10 years old. That kind of like triggers the system, because I've added about a 20-year-old credit card on my credit profile before, and I was stuck at $799. It was so frustrating. So You want to make sure that the longer the history, the better. 2, the utilization matters. Obviously, if this is for a charge card, the utilization won't matter as much, but your debt to income ratio is where this will come into effect. Credit limit, ideally, we want it to be $15,000, $20,000. If you're going to get an authorized user card, get a good one. So that way it can show up on your credit report. When you do have this authorized user card appear on your credit profile, you will have a new address that gets added on your credit profile. I do not want you guys to remove that address because you may potentially end up removing that account while removing that address. So just keep that in mind. Another really good thing regarding authorized user accounts, this person, whoever the primary account holder is, cannot have had a late payment. That late payment will bump you down in your personal credit profile at least 30 to 100 points. So they must pay things on time, have no lates, high credit limit, and also ideally a longer age of history. When it comes to your primary accounts, or just accounts in total, what the banks are looking for, what the lenders are looking for, are about 7 total trade lines. Ideally, 4 of these are open and 3 of them are closed. And we want to have a healthy mix because credit mix does also affect your credit profile. So that means having a portion in the mortgage section. That can mean a mortgage, that can mean rental history reporting of your lease. That can mean just primarily those 2. Sometimes home equity line of credit can fall into that. I'm not 100% sure. Secondarily, we want to make sure that we have some history in the auto loan section. So you can get an auto loan if you already have a car paid off. Let's say, for example, a friend or a family member paid the car off. If you wanted to get a loan on that car that's already been paid off, a couple of good lenders to be able to do that are Navy Federal and Bank of America. Those 2 are really great for that in particular. In regards to credit cards, this is going to be super important. The credit card primary trade lines, the way we want to build up to it is going to be starting at a credit limit. If, let's say, for example, you started at 3,000 or 5,000, we want to boost that up to 10,000 ideally before going for a round of funding. Or if you can't make it there, at least 7,000, because that's what's going to allow you to leverage having more lending opportunity on the business side. And also regarding the inquiries, which is the last portion of our credit report, we want to make sure that we have about, honestly, I would say 3 inquiries or less. The less, the better. Inquiries remain on your credit report when they are hard inquiries. There's a difference between hard inquiries and soft inquiries. Soft inquiries, they say, do not affect your credit. And then hard inquiries do affect your credit, and they remain on your credit profile for up to 2 years. In regards to the inquiries, making sure that they are either authorized or unauthorized, you can match the inquiry to the actual credit card account. So if I have a Capital One card, I have that Capital One inquiry. That's an authorized inquiry that is staying on there. Now, if you have any inquiries that you, for example, did not get approved for the card or for the loan, then you are able to remove that inquiry. You can do that by calling one of the credit agencies, TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax, or you can simply just write in a letter to them to get those items removed. Either which way, I would always follow up with a call. Yes, you will be on hold for 2 hours. Yes, it's extremely tedious, but guess what? You do the hard things so that way you can get the results that you're looking for. That is absolutely everything on our personal credit side. And before I hop into the business funding side, I want to know if you guys have any questions regarding the personal credit side before I move on.
I do. I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary. Let's keep it to 1 question per person so that way everyone gets a chance.
Okay. I meet you, Dez. Gray Chase here. With respect to the authorized users, those are parties that are like, let's just say an associate or a friend or someone like that, or else I can be an authorized user on someone else who has more, like, better credit than me. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. So expanding on authorized users, accounts, these are accounts that you would ideally want to add to your personal credit profile. You can ask a friend or a family member or a business partner, letting them know very simply, hey, I'm currently working on building my credit. I do not want access to your card. I simply want to have an authorized user account reporting on my credit. So in which case that friend or family member would call up their credit card company saying, hey, I have Gary that I'd like to add as an authorized user. Here's his name, here's his social, and here's the address. So just the personal information about you, so that way they can add you to that account. And then that would appear on your credit report somewhere between 30 and 60 days from the time that they called, based on when the statement end date comes into effect. And so you would definitely be asking the people around you. If you wanted to be an authorized user, if you wanted to add someone and help someone else build their credit, you can call your credit card company and add someone as an authorized user to your card. But ideally, again, remember, no lates, long age of history, and obviously you want to be able to trust this person because, you know, they're not going to have access to the card. The card will be shipped primarily to you if it's your home address that's on file for the primary account. And you would just be assisting them and helping them to boost their credit. So yes, you ask people around you. You can, there are websites where you can purchase them. I can't verify the validity of these websites because I've personally never used them. So ideally asking the people around you who'd be willing to help for free, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, Jeffrey. I saw a hand raised there. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Another one is, I've been dealing with a lot of this stuff myself, when to make the payments, because I know it's different from personal as it is to business.
Perfect. That's a great question. So when to make your payments? Ideally, you want to make your payment, just to keep it super simple, and then I'll give you like a basic answer and then I'll give you an advanced answer. The basic answer is pay down your credit card. And remember, it's only going to matter for the credit cards because those are your revolving credits, meaning that you can pay down that credit card up to between 5 and 9% utilization. So you take the credit limit, times that by 0.05 or 0.09. That is what your balance should be on the payment due date. So you make that payment on the payment due date, and then you don't use the card until 1 day after the statement end date. So sometimes that's about 3 to 5 days after the payment due date. You'll be able to check these exact dates on your bank statement. That's the basic answer, and that's where you're going to have the most optimal utilization for your credit profile. Now, when it comes to the more advanced answer, if you're trying to increase your payment history, and this is also a really good way where you can make your mortgage payment, pay off your mortgage faster, is by splitting that payment that you would have made on the payment due date into 2 payments. So you make that one payment, half of it 2 weeks before the payment due date, and then one on the payment due date. And that's when you would be paying your credit cards to make sure that you have optimal utilization. And then I think I saw one other person, if you can raise your hand, who needed to ask a question here. There we go, Mike.
Hello. Thank you for that question. If you have more than one address on your, how do you get rid of the multiple addresses?
Perfect. So getting rid of your multiple addresses on your credit report, you would typically write a personal information letter. That's what I call it, utilizing ChatGPT. Honestly, you can type it up in 3 sentences. Hey, the only address I live at is X address. Please delete any and all addresses that are not mine. Very simple. And you would do, on that same letter, you would also correct your name if there's any misspellings of your name, and also your employer if you want it to be included or not included.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, before we loop back around, because I know Jeffrey and Gary had one more question. Yes, Robert. You're on mute, Robert. No worries. Hi.
Anyways, I have a question in regards of boosting your credit. Is it better to get a credit card from the store or directly from the bank?
That's an awesome question. So I personally don't like credit cards from the store simply because you're not building a relationship. They can't give you anything more besides a store at their credit card and you're stuck using it with them. So I prefer going to actual lenders, credit unions, banks in order to get a credit card because you can get cash back on points. You can get cash back, you can get points, you can travel. One of my studio lights went out. You can travel for a very low price on business class. It's honestly incredible. So my favorite ones to utilize for points is definitely American Express and Chase. The next like runner up after those two, because I'm sure you guys probably know about that already, is the Capital One X Venture card.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Our last two questions here are going to be with Jeffrey and Gary, and then we're going to hop into the business credit. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Second one, the business fund to make payments in business, because when I started getting business cards, that's when I learned about this stuff.
So when to make payments on business, it's the same as the personal, but you probably are maybe getting a little bit overwhelmed because now you have all these cards that you're dealing with and different payment due dates. So definitely organize yourself on a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet and start writing out all the payment due dates each month. And that's a sheet that you would be updating every single month to make sure that you're making those payments. Ideally, you are on auto pay, God forbid. You know, if something happens, at least your minimum payment was made, but you should be making those larger payments to bring down the utilization between 5 and 9%. That's how you're going to optimize it. Now, I'm sure you saw when Andrew was sharing his screen, he was like, yeah, I had business credit with all this debt. On the business side, yes, the utilization matters. The utilization matters always, but that's simply in regards to having a high score for purposes of getting more funding and ideally not having to pay an excessive amount of interest on the debt that you owe. But when it comes to actually paying that business side, it's only going to affect your business credit, not your personal credit, unless you defaulted. That's the only time it's going to come over to your personal and affect your personal. Let's hop in with Gary for his last question here before we hop into business.
That's okay, and just it's actually gray, like the
Gray,
color.
I'm
No
sorry.
problem. No, that's fine. But no, my other questions have been answered. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. So right now we're going to get into business funding, but it's super important that you're actually preparing your business profile the right way first. So first things first, we definitely have an LLC or we have a C Corp, one of the two. Those are primarily the two that do the best in funding. Two, you are able to personally guarantee, meaning that your personal credit score is ideally 730s or higher in order for you to go and get business funding. There are lenders that will give you business funding solely based on revenue, but you are going to limit yourself significantly if you're not looking for just a loan. If you're trying to do credit card stacking, you're definitely going to need to have your personal credit top notch. And because this is top secret information on the business side, I'm actually going to close off both of the lives that are going on here, and this will just be for you guys.